You are live.
Last call, first call Saturday morning, last call here on WagerTalk TV because it's 11 a.m. Eastern, and we are live breaking down Saturday's slate of basketball, baseball, and yes, the Kentucky Derby. Full details coming up with Gianni the Greek, Ronald Cabang, and Sean Alvarez, all from WagerTalk.com. And I'm your host, Steve Merril, filling in for Ariel Epstein. She'll be back next week. She's on assignment. Let's get right to it, though. Steam Report, 11 a.m. Eastern here. We do it, of course, every weekday at 12 noon Eastern on Wager Talk Today. And we bring Johnny on a little bit earlier on the weekends at 11 a.m. Eastern. Ace, welcome to the show. What are you looking at today? We've got a Game 7 of the NBA, tons of baseball, and also the Derby. I don't know if you dabble with the Derby or not.
Yeah, I always do for fun, more for entertainment than anything else. I mean, horse racing is just such a hard racket to beat. I don't know many that actually do it. The hold's just too high. I mean, but I enjoyed the Triple Crown races. Obviously, that's not where anybody that's winning in horses is making their money, but it's always fun to get involved. I haven't really dabbled in it yet today. Probably going to take a look at it as the day goes on. Really slow so far, a little bit surprising because you do have some big games, especially like you said, in the NBA, in the NHL. Here's what I see so far. Good balanced action, at least from the betting public. On the Clippers and Denver. Historically, teams in this spot, in Denver's spot, and they get the W at home in this pivotal seventh game, at least historically, and even more so in this first round. Games that have gone like this, series that have gone like this. Actually, a team in Denver's exact position has only happened twice, where in the first round of the NBA, first round of the playoffs, where that's how the winning and losing of the series have played out, and with the home team for the series or the road team for the series. And in both of those instances, the home team got the W at home, but the public's not all over Denver as you would expect. You're seeing good two-way action. Also, same thing with the total. I did see some sharp money bet the over as soon as the total opened. But since then, it really hasn't moved all that much because of the public money coming in on the under. Like once it stabilized, the immediate opener got hit, which you see a lot of times when it comes out short, like this one did at like 204. I think the first book that went the market opened it up, and they just kept betting it up, betting it up, betting it up, betting it up. Since then, though, it's been under money coming in today. So it's one of those instances where sharps on one side, public on the other, with the sharps betting the over in Game 7 and the public going under in Game 7. In the NHL, same thing. I don't see too much risk as far as what the public's doing, but it's early. Again, it's only 8 a.m. out here on the West Coast. They're betting Dallas as a dog in a Game 7, no surprise. Colorado is supposed to win this series pretty much easily. Dallas is giving them a run for their money, and that's why you're seeing some public money coming in on Dallas. But if you look at that line, it's done nothing but move in favor of Colorado. So another situation where you're looking at the public and the sharp bettors opposite, because the sharp bettors kind of get involved early as soon as that line opened up, minus 135, minus 140 on the Colorado side. But like I said today, peeking into the accounts before I jumped on, and the majority of recreational accounts, they're on Dallas, and just like they're on that under in that NBA game. In fact, those are the two bets from the public in the playoff games that really stick out. And both of them are opposite, at least what the sharp bettors did early on.
Yeah, Ace, I'd love to go back and back test in any sport where we have the public on the under and the sharp money on the over. I bet you that wins pretty good, because that's obviously contrarian to what you normally see. Public plays favorites and overs, obviously, most of the time. And that NBA game is really interesting because the Game 1 total with overtime still stayed under the 225.
Yep.
This one was priced over 20 points lower in Game 7. And now, as you said, the sharps have pushed it 3 points higher, but still 18 points below what the Game 1 line was. And as we all know, including the betting markets and the odds makers, that Game 7s have gone under for decades. But it's 50-50 in round 1. Ralph Michaels pointed that out to us this morning. It's over 70% rounds 2 and on. And also, Ace, all those unders in past years, we weren't getting a 20-point adjustment probably from Game 1. So you do have to wonder if that's priced to perfection now with that Game 7 under trend.
Yeah, exactly. Because, again, the market just was getting more efficient. But that's a huge move. And it makes sense in the first round because that's the one round where you have the most superior versus inferior teams. In the NBA, everybody makes the playoffs more or less. So you don't get too many of those upsets in that first round. It's usually, that's when you get even a lot of the sweeps happen in the first round of the playoffs. As it continues, the cream tends to rise to the top, but the teams are better and better and better. But early on, that's why I wasn't surprised to see that. But I was surprised to see that big of an adjustment, like you said, from that game one. And it makes sense for the Sharps to go over that big of a move. You're looking at 18 points, like you said, 20 points from the opener. That's a big, big, big adjustment to happen only over 6 games. It's going to be interesting to see how that one ends, but I just keep seeing the respect that over is getting. The sharper shops that I'm looking at, they're already at 207.5, ready to go to 208 next. You see some of the square shops still at that 207. They don't want to move way too much. So yeah, it is definitely a public versus sharp situation. And I saw that from Ralph as well. I was surprised. I mean, not surprised that the unders in game 7, that's always been the cliche, bet game 7's under. But more so that in round 1, that just hasn't held. And you see they're bucking that trend again by going over in this game 7.
Yeah, Ralph Michaels shot this out earlier this morning. Since 2002, game 7s are actually 16 and 15 to the over now.
Wow.
So they've actually been over. But then you look at rounds 2 and on, like you're saying, when you get the Class A teams playing each other more, it's 28-10 under. That's a huge difference. And it's exactly for the reasons you're saying. Class A teams play more defense later in the playoffs. Now, the question becomes, I mean, these could be two, I don't know if they're Class A teams. The Nuggets were the world champs 2 years ago. The Clippers, the final 15 games of the regular season, had the best net rating in the NBA. So, the debate becomes, are these Class A teams? Probably not overall this season. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But it might be the first time all year I've seen a sharp square divide favoring the over in any game, NFL or NBA. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. Ace, you said not a lot of baseball movement. It just occurred to me, we got some college baseball. I don't dabble much with it. You're talking about 30, 35-cent lines, 30-cent lines on totals. But do your syndicates, the guys you follow, ever have anything in college baseball during the regular season?
Yeah, and in fact, that's why I think, I mean, I haven't checked it in a couple of days, but that's where I was sitting I'm up in Major League Baseball, but number 1 in profit overall in all of baseball because of the college.
Wow.
We do a lot of college baseball. This last week, I haven't really bet much college baseball. It kind of comes in waves, but we really were getting down prior to this week. Like almost every day, every other day, betting a handful of college baseball total, mostly totals, very few sides. On occasion, if we're betting a side, 9 times out of 10, it's a favorite where they're splitting up the bet between the money line and even betting the run line. So they feel real confident about the side. But 9 out of 10 times, it's the totals. We're betting these totals. And I'd say 7 out of 10 times, it's betting these totals under. So yeah, wow. a lot of college baseball action from the sharp groups, but the problem is holding on to the accounts when you're betting this stuff because nobody wants it, meaning they're not going to be able to write anything on the other side. So it's kind of like you against the bookmaker. No one else is really betting these college baseball sides or totals especially. And you see some of the schools that we're betting, like it's not the huge Division I names that you're used to seeing in football, in basketball. It's some other, colleges that do well in baseball that aren't those premier big name schools. And like I said, you're not getting any action opposite. So I've had more accounts shut down because of that than any other sport. Like, you sneak in a soccer game, a Bulgarian basketball game, they'll just look the other way with it. But if you're pounding them with college baseball, like we were doing pretty much every day, and, going 3-1, 4-2, those kind of days. That's the quickest way to get your account shut down really quickly. Because again, you're just sticking out. It's like a card counter. It's like a red flag. You start betting, $10 a hand, and all of a sudden you jump it up to 200. And, they rewind the tape and they see you did that every time that the count was in your favor. It doesn't take long for them to realize they don't want to deal cards to you. Same thing with betting sports. You start pounding them with college baseball totals and you're beating them week in and week out. They just don't even want to deal with it. They know long-term you're going to beat them. You're betting that kind of stuff. So that's the problem that I've run into with the college baseball, hoping that, when it gets that World Series time, that where it gets real more popular and ESPN's covering it a lot more, then they'll get a little public action. But otherwise, it's just the sharps versus the books. And like I said, it hasn't been a fair fight. Anytime I see college baseball, AAA baseball, I get so excited. Like, I feel more confident betting those than any other sport. It's like when I get those rogue soccer games or a rogue basketball game, I feel so confident because, again, the only reason you're betting anything like that is because you have really good information and you feel the line's really weak. But the key is getting it down and having to use off-screen books, because that's the one problem with those things. You can't bet on screen. You just can't do it. I've lost a group doing that. Real quick story. I was getting really good stuff, bro. This great soccer stuff from South America. Like they were hitting Central America and South America soccer. I get goosebumps. Look, I'm saying it and I get goosebumps. Like, these guys, it was like they had the Mars newspaper, bro. They were just slamming soccer. And next thing you know, I was just getting dropped every time I log in. I was getting dropped. Because just nobody wanted to deal with it. And make a long story short, I just wanted to keep getting down. And I didn't have many off-screen outs that would book it anymore. So I was like, dude, this is winning stuff. So I bet it on screen, made the mistake of betting it on screen. Everything went fine for a couple days. But I'm sure somebody at that book realized, okay, this is a sharp account. And as soon as I bet, dude, they moved that line on the screen. It just lit up. Like, that one day I bet like 3 games and all 3 of those games lit up. And it took them about 30 minutes to realize who bet that stuff on screen. And they got pretty pissed. In fact, like, I stopped working with them for a couple months until it was like ironed out. I just said, dude, I didn't think it would be a problem. It was an account not in my name. So I thought I could sneak it in there. And, I admitted I did it. But yeah, the only thing that makes them more pissed than that is if you get a horse. A horse is the worst, bro. If someone gives you a horse information that's a race that they kind of know the outcome to already, never walk into OTB and bet it. That's the one way to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Happened to me back in the day where I went to the track with my cousin and we had good information from the group that I was working with, and we started betting this horse, and they wanted it at like 18-1. And because it was a small track and we were betting it at OTB, that horse probably went off at like 4-1. Yeah, they were not very happy with that. You got to have off-screen outs for that kind of stuff. That's the problem. So that's a long way of saying I absolutely love college baseball. And that's why I always tell guys, look at my page, because if I have college baseball, I'm going to give at least 1 or 2 of those for free, because I want everyone to get that information and bet it, because it's the kind of stuff that even if you miss the first number, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't even have to worry about getting the first or second number. If we go under 13.5, even at 13, you're good. Even 12.5, you're usually good. Those tend to do the best.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you're playing mostly totals, because the tricky thing for me with college baseball is you don't have listed starters, right? So when you said you're playing mostly totals, I thought you were probably looking for bullpen games and slamming the over. So I was actually surprised to hear you're on mostly unders. Makes me think maybe they know a stud pitcher is going in a game or something, and that's
going to go longer. Yeah,
they're coming in on it. It's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, college baseball, there's a reason why it's 30, 40 cent lines splits on the money line, and they're still getting slammed. We got Andrew, one of our loyal viewers, Andrew, says, really hope both of these game 7s are epic. Going to take a tent city, Denver tonight. Also, Jay Lee pointed out, shutting down an account is effed up, he said. Isn't winning advertised the whole point? You brought up a good point, though, Johnny. It's like 2 types of sports books. Those that'll just put you down to $1, so they say they don't ban people, right? That's what I would do personally if I owned a sports book. I'd just limit you to $1, then you're not banning anybody. But then there's the other ones. The leading indicator books will actually move the lines, like you're saying, and take the hit, but be the greater good. I mean, there's really 2 ways to approach it.
It's getting harder and harder, Steve. I've been at WagerTalk like 8 years now, I think, and I've been in this industry now for 15 plus, I think. I've never, the first time ever that I've reached out to my subscribers asking for accounts. I swear to you, like I would ask, like, Kelly, I would ask people like friends that I knew were betting and in the industry, but I never reached out to like subscribers like, hey, if you have any accounts, let's partner up. Because it's getting that hard to nobody. It's all, most are betting the same stuff. Like, you're getting the same stuff. Unless like you're able to get so much money down that you're working with particular specialists that are only dealing with you. But more times than not, it's just how high you are in the food chain to how quickly you get it. Eventually, though, it's almost like always the same stuff to where, like, if someone gives me accounts that's already moving stuff, the first thing I'll ask them is like, send me a screenshot of what you're betting so I could tell you whether it's worth it for us. Like, because if it's the same stuff, I don't want to pelt you with the same things, especially if you're already getting it. But it's just getting harder and harder. And the reason is, and I don't want to harp on this, but it's just the truth. And Dave Mason talked about it. I'll say it again. You know, gambling Twitter and social media is going to make you think the opposite, that everybody wins and the sports books loses. But I could promise you it's the exact opposite. Even those people bragging and showing those tickets, lifetime earnings, I promise you, are not going to be all that great. And it used to be 1% of bettors were profitable. And I had Dave Mason on my show with the UFC, and he said, no, that there's been a correction, Gianni. It's now about 0.5% of our accounts are actually profitable. So it was like 1 in every 100. Now it's 1 in every 200. And the reason for that is because sports betting is now legal pretty much everywhere. Right. Everyone's doing it. There's a new class of bettors entering the marketplace every single day. So they don't want to deal with the winners. Like, why? It's almost become like blackjack, where there's so many card counters that they're not efficient. They're not great at it. And more importantly, they're underfunded. They're not even properly funded. So they don't really even pose a threat to the house, but they just don't even want to deal with it. If they think that you're raising your bet and you're making the moves that a card counter will move, they'll just toss you out, regardless of whether you even posed a threat to them. And it's starting to be like that with sports, where you just beat the close with a couple bets. I told the story on WagerTalk today. A guy gave me an account. I put 3 bets in with him. 20 minutes later, he called. He said, yo, my guy closed the account. He doesn't want to deal with this stuff. I said, what are you talking about? We don't even know what the result. He's like, he don't care about the result. He said the line moved on all 3 of those games 5 minutes after you bet them. And he shut him down. And I ended up going 1 and 2 that night. But so it doesn't even matter the results. He just figured, dude, this guy's getting shit that's ahead of the market. He's going to beat me eventually. I don't even want to deal with it. Where back in the day, we were actually an asset to the books. Like, more times than not, you're coming in opposite of what the public's doing. So you're helping them manage that risk. Now they just have so much losing negative EV action that they don't even need us to limit their risk. Like, these bettors that are coming in today are betting such bad stuff, like with the same game parlay nonsense, with the teasers in every sport, and putting like laying -115s instead of -110s or even -105s, what I look for. Like, they're willing to lay -115, -118 just to get a bet down. So, like, they're taking such negative EV spots. They don't even want to deal with anybody that poses a threat anymore. And that's becoming the bigger and bigger and bigger problem. I know for a lot of sharp bettors that I talk to, they all say the same thing that I say. If I could do it all over again, I would be on the other side of the counter. I would just book. If I could do it all over again, I would just be the book. That's the easiest way to make money in this racket. Because what I'm doing, it's like cat and mouse. You know what I mean? You got to sneak in there. You feel like you're a thief almost. They make you feel like you're stealing from them when all you're doing is, having good access to information. Anyway.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. We'll leave it at that. But I mean, when legalized sports betting became legal in 30 some states, there's 2 ways to look at it. You'd be like, there's so much public square action. The sharps are going to balance things out. You're going to be more welcome than ever. Like you said, it's been the exact opposite, because there's so much easy pickings from those guys losing on a weekly, monthly basis that they don't want the sharp action at all. It'd be like walking into a candy store. You buy a couple pieces of candy and you throw the rest on the ground. They're not going to want your business anymore. So I don't blame the sports books. I would run it the same way. If somebody wants to lay -112 on each side of a point spread
Me
bet,
too, Steve. The market,
you and I wouldn't be playing.
What the market accepts is what they're going to give us.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. I think we're in the quiet before the storm. We've talked about this. It'd be a great discussion for another show, but I think we're 5-10 years in the wild, wild west before we maybe get the -102 interactive betting markets,
with the exchanges,
and the efficiency, the Betfair type stuff. Because keep in mind, England and Europe are 30 years ahead of us, and they're a more mature market. You got to weed out these recreational bettors that are willing to play into 30-cent lines before you can get to the point where you can maybe have an efficient, financial style market. Something I would love to see. When you're ready to do it, my man, hit me up on the side. We'll be the first to market. We'll do it. But there's some barriers to entry there as well, as we've discussed. Gianni, I'll let you run. What you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Love you, brother. I wish you the best, Steve. Always. I got my UFC package is up. 5%'s already in there. Number one in 5% in 2025. I've been very selective. I love this one in the UFC today. I already have 4 plays in there. I just bet 3 totals before I came on. Excuse me, in the UFC card tonight. Those will be in the package in the next probably 15, 20 minutes. So I'll have a really good UFC card, putting together my baseball. May dabble in the NBA and NHL, but I do have a series bets pending on Denver and Dallas, I believe. So I'll see if I'm going to get involved. But otherwise, it's going to be MMA today, UFC, and then some baseball as well. And like I said, whether you guys follow, fade, I hope you guys do damage. Crush the books today. Cash those Game 7 tickets. And best of luck to everybody out there.
Awesome. Gianni the Greek. And it really is us against the books, right? So let's all win together. That's what we try to do here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, if you're finding this useful, thumbs up, like, comment below whether the live chat will get to your questions right now live at 11 a.m. Eastern, or you can watch the archive version, comment in the YouTube. We follow along and answer those questions as well. And don't forget, when you click subscribe, click that bell for an instant alert so you know when these shows go live each and every day. We have last call on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, Wager Talk today at noon Eastern. And the Prez's farewell was yesterday on Friday. Go back and watch the farewell episode, and then join us with Andy Lang taking over the host seat this Monday at noon Eastern. Johnny will be on every day with the Steam Report, as you just saw. So must-watch TV. Click the bell to subscribe. Click the bell when you subscribe so you never miss out on instant alerts. And don't forget also, I'm doing every NBA playoff game every day. I've got my Game 7 video up for tonight, Clippers Nuggets. Also going to have your Game 7 video for tomorrow, Rockets Warriors, along with Game 1 on the Cavs and Pacers series. And speaking of the NBA, let's get to our NBA expert, Ronald Cabang, to talk some more Game 7, maybe a little bit of a sneak preview into the Sunday games as well. And Ronald, we're going to hit on some baseball, so we haven't gotten much baseball yet. So if you have any particular baseball games you want us to hit here live, then ask away in the chat. We'll get to them in a moment. But Ronald, you brought up a good point here during Johnny's segment about playing your top bet maybe big at one book and then mixing in some parlays or playing the opposite side. I mean, I get where you're going with that. My take, though, would be, you're still giving back some profit, though, if you're mixing in, non-advantage plays. So you're still kind of up against it either way, I guess.
Yeah, the thought process behind that is just being able to kind of avoid the red flags or whatever, I guess, keeping your book healthy a little bit, depending on how many you have, right? Because if you don't have a lot of outs, like in Washington, we don't have too much. So I don't have the opportunity to do that. But one of the guys that I know that is part of the syndicate, he developed a software that actually bets all these books separately. So if the guy who owns whatever plays a certain way, he'll bet heavy on that side and then small on the other side, and then kind of rotate it so that they show negative EV plays in one side and then the positive EV on the other side, so that they kind of just avoid being looked at as sharp. So I don't know. That was just something that came across my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a cat and mouse game, and it's something that I thought would be less of a problem with the legalized sports betting. As we said, it's actually become more of a problem because there's so many recreational players that just hand you their money, and they'd rather have that business. Very interesting Game 7. Johnny and I talked about it, that the total in Game 1 was 225.
Yeah. And
then we had 4 straight unders. So it got as low as 209 in Game 5. It goes over with 246 points. They bump it 3 points to 212.5 for Game 6. It lands 216, goes over again. So normally you'd see maybe 215 now, right? If this is Game 3 or 4 after 2 overs. And we get them opening like at 203. It's been bet up to 207. Game 7s go under, but as Ralph Michaels pointed out, and as you know well with your back testing, Game series, first round series don't go under as much. What are your thoughts on this? I thought it was fascinating that it looks like the sharp money's on the over and the public is still maybe leaning under. It really makes you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I think historical trends and all that stuff is becoming more popular. So I think books kind of adjust as they go. Like you said, the sharps are taking the over. It makes a lot of sense because this number went way too low compared to where we were at throughout the whole series. I mean, obviously Game 7, 3-3, right? But to me, it's not a typical zigzag series. In Game 4, in Game 6, the Nuggets players played 40 plus minutes, essentially 7 player rotation. On the Clippers side, they did pretty much the same thing. I think they had 8 players play, but Chris Dunn only played 10 minutes, even though he started. So I think to me, both teams should be tired, meaning, slower paced game. than they've already been playing, because they've already been playing a slower pace. Offensive efficiency will be down. Also, like, a key emphasis on defense as well, because I think majority of the games that won or covered, that team ended up winning the turnover battle for the most part. So I think that's going to be a key factor here. And because of those reasons, that the books brought that total down. With that said, I think that the Nuggets, though, like if it comes down to a half court game throughout the game, I think Jokic and Murray offense, half court offense, is a lot better than what the Clippers have right now. I think we see a rebound game from Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, he only played 20 something minutes in the last one. He's been dealing with an injury, and hopefully, giving him a little bit of rest there helps him out a little bit more, gets more efficient from three, helps them spread the court out a little bit more as well. At home versus on the road, the Nuggets are way better offensively at home than on the road. On the season, including the playoffs, they average more than 5 points per game at home than on the road. And I think their offensive rebounding, that's not going to change. That's so second chance opportunity is going to be huge. They're just going to need to really just take care of the ball a little bit better. That's the one thing that I could see. I think one of the big adjustments I could see for this game, especially for the Nuggets, is attacking the basket a little bit more, because I can't see them having only 9 free throw attempts in this game 7 like they did in game 6. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get like 15 to 20 free throws attempts tonight. And then historically, this is a great spot for home favorites as well. I looked at home favorites in round 1, game 7s. Since 2007, 19-5 straight up. If you include that home favorites lost game 6, so losing going into game 7, 12-1 straight up. So, during the regular season, the Clippers were not great on the road as dogs either, 4-15 straight up. So a lot of things kind of pointing towards the Nuggets winning the game. I know the spread is at a point where you could probably take the money line here.
Yeah, that's fascinating about the home teams. I pointed that out in my video as well, that, the Clippers probably been the better team over the past couple of months, but it's really difficult to fade a game 7 home team. And those round 1 numbers are astonishing. What'd you say, 19-5?
19-5 straight up since
12-1 if they lost game 6, which means they had the 3-2 lead, obviously. And I think you can make a case also Denver has a unique home court with that altitude. Will that wear down the Clippers in the late part of the second half, perhaps? Porter Jr. is an interesting guy. We'll talk maybe some players if you have any player props you want to get to. Porter Jr. is a guy I mentioned in my video as well. I actually liked him under in game 6. He had a couple monster games. He had 17 points in game 5. He had 14 points, but was 5 for 10 shooting in game 5. Game 4, he had 17. Game 5, 5 for 10 shooting. I thought he'd regress a little bit, and boy, did he regress, as you said. Only 5 points, only had 5 shot attempts, only played 24 minutes. He had a negative 24 plus minus. I mean, it's just horrendous in game 6, and he's not fully healthy. I like his point prop under again. Maybe his rebound prop, you said, would be a safer play. Jokic, 25 points, but he only had 7 rebounds, 8 assists. It was the farthest he's come from a triple-double after having him. And I believe the majority of the other games, he only missed the other couple. I think he said 3 of the 6, he said a triple-double. What are your thoughts on some particular players maybe to play on or fade in this one? Jamal Murray, Jokic, you figure got to step up big if the Nuggets win game 7, like history would say.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we're going to see these guys play 40-plus minutes. So I think a lot of their numbers are going to be a little bit inflated. I think so. As far as like value wise, I think Michael Porter Jr. I think a lot of people are going to try to bet his under, expecting him to continue to struggle here. But as far as value, from a player prop perspective, that means his number is going to be a little bit lower than what he's more capable of. I don't think he's going to play 24 or whatever minutes he played like he did in game 6. I feel like this rest is going to give him a little bit more extra. Get him a little bit healthier, just because he's been dealing with that shoulder injury. So for me, I think I would actually look towards his overs rather than the unders. And everybody else, like I said, they expect everyone to play 40-plus minutes. All their numbers are going to be inflated. So it's going to be tough to really take these player props.
Yeah, Andrew Wojcicki says, too, if you like the Clips, got to look at Harden Leonard over props. Once again, I do think it probably depends on which side you like, and you want to maybe look at the star players that have big games. Who do you think are the key guys for the Clippers if they do pull the upset?
It's probably going to be Kawhi. I think it's going to be Kawhi, because offensively and defensively. But then at the same time, how important Jokic is to this game. He's the best player on the court, best player probably in the league.
Right.
So Zubac is going to have a huge factor in this game on trying to stay out of foul trouble, right? And defending Jokic this whole time. So I mean, as far as the importance, I would say Zubac, but if you're looking at player props, it's probably going to be someone like Kawhi or Harden.
Yeah, Zubac's an interesting guy. He played 41 minutes in Game 5, had 19 points, 9 for 14. Then he had 27 points in Game 5, 11 for 15. And boy, did I think he would regress, and he did. Even with the Clippers winning 10 points, he only took 6 shot attempts, 5 for 6 in Game 6. And you do have to wonder if there's more focus on stopping, Jokic. And they did somewhat stop Jokic, at least defensively, rebounding and assists. So I think Zubac under could be worth a look. Even if the Clippers play well, he's going to probably play more defensively. Ronald, let's get to some MLB. And if we have any live questions out there, let us know. I'll throw it to you. What are some games you want to talk about today in MLB? Daily action as always.
Yeah, I actually only had one bet today. It was for the MLB. It's I took the Cubs and Brewers over. I think one of the things that I look at as far as MLB, because MLB is actually, this has been one of my best starts to the MLB season. Using sites like the Money Baller that kind of gives you all the stats and insights that are more important to handicapping the game versus like a lot of noise. One of the biggest things that I look at with starting pitchers is their ERA to xERA, xFIP, and Quintana, his ERA is 1.14. So a lot of the surface level numbers makes it look like he's a lot better than he is, but his xFIP 4.31, Sierra 4.65, a lot of things pointing towards some negative regression here, especially early on. And you see a Cubs team who's offensively has been one of the better teams in the league right now, and they put up 10 runs yesterday. I think they're going to be able to put up a good chunk of runs here. I think that the Cubs will be able to hit Jameson as well, starting for the Cubs here. And then both bullpens are a little bit shaky too. So whether or not these starting pitchers get deep into the game or not, I think there's going to be runs to be had later as well. So a lot of things kind of pointing towards in over 8.5. I think if you just look at their offense combined, 11 runs per game, pretty close to 11 runs per game on the full season right now combined for both of these teams. I think the offense will show. So 8.5 over was the one that I was looking at.
Yeah, and our producer, Dan Alexander, of course, would cut our feed if we don't get to his Phillies, and we'll do that. By the way, Dan, for all the viewers out there, threw in a sneaky prop. He said, what was it, Dan? Westbrook over 11.5. Is that what I saw in the live chat? So we'll see. There he is.
Typically, it's sunny here in California, a little dark in here. But yeah, I went with Russell Westbrook going over the 11.5 points, simply because it doesn't matter if they're up. It doesn't matter if they're down. If there's one thing, if Russell Westbrook is on the court, he's going to be hiking things up. And he had that one game where he had 3 points in this series. And then outside of that, Steve, he's gone over this number easily, especially in that, Thursday night game. He had 21 points. So I can't believe in 2025 I'm giving out a Russell Westbrook over, but that's where we're at, Steve. So yeah, I dropped that in the chat there for the folks. I like Russell Westbrook going over the 11.5. I think it might be even at 12.5. I think it's still playable.
Yeah, Westbrook is a guy that's not afraid to take some shots when he's given the ball. So I think it's over a pass probably with him. And Harden's probably the same way as well. Those are two guys that have never met a shot they don't like. And since Dan gave us an NBA prop, let's give him a pick on his Phillies Arizona game today in Major League Baseball. Anything catch your eye on that one, Ronald?
I didn't bet anything on this one, but just looking through it. Obviously Brendan 5 and so the Diamondbacks are 5-1 straight up when Fott starts and Nola starts. They're 1-5. But one of the biggest things about Phillies versus starting right-handed pitchers as home favorites, they typically do well in the first 5, 7-2-3 in the first 5, 8-4 straight up. If you look at the Diamondbacks versus starting right-handed pitchers, as road dogs here, 1-2-1 in the first 5, just 2-2 straight up as road dogs. One of the things that I'm looking at, both starting pitchers are pretty profitable to the under here. I know both offenses are pretty solid. Diamondbacks averaging 5.2, Phillies 4.5. Really strong, like advanced metrics numbers here, but there are some positive regression flags for both Fott and Nola. And then both bullpens as well. Some positive regression numbers there. Their surface level numbers, 4.46 ERA, 4.87 for the Phillies. their advanced metric numbers point towards 3.61 xFIP, 3.94 xFIP. So I think if it gets down to the late innings, I think they could shut them down here with just some positive regression numbers. So I would actually look at the total being 9.5. I would look more so to the total under than anything on the side. But from a side perspective, I think we see positive regression with Nola. I think the offense right here, I think the barrel rate and hard hit rate are pretty neck and neck. I think some of the things kind of point towards positive regression for the Diamondbacks offense with their BABIP at just 0.273. So I actually think that Diamondbacks will be able to get some runs here, but Nola with the positive regression there kind of gets me hesitant. But overall, I think the under for the most part, nothing on the side.
Yeah, and Robert S. pointed out, as you saw on the screen there, Nola 0-5-1, first 5 so far this season. And I know Dan doesn't want to hear it, but that's one of the reasons his Phillies are just 18-14 on the year.
Steve, I also would like the record to show
let there be light.
Pay the electric bill. There is
light
in this. There is light in the house. I haven't fully hit here in the dark.
Coming.
And no, I didn't. I wanted to make sure that people knew I was able to pay the electric bill. I have not bet on Aaron Nola in the first 5. So I
thought it's because you've been betting Nola first 5 all season.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any light if that was the case. So just had to clarify there for the folks. Yeah,
I was like, come on, man, we're only 32 games into the MLB season. We got 130 to go. Don't be in a dark place quite yet. And let's finish with one more game, probably the spotlight game, and it's Dodgers Braves. And I will use this segue that, the Braves, what was it, 0-7, I believe they started after getting swept by the Padres and the Dodgers. And, everyone thought the sky was falling. Chicken Little was out in Atlanta. They're 14-10 since. And it does jump out to me, Ronald, that they're 5-12 against winning teams this year, which makes them 9-5 against losing teams. Obviously, the Dodgers a winning team, 22-10. But the Dodgers splits are pretty fascinating. 15-3 at home, just 7-7 on the road, just 7-6 against winning teams this year, as opposed to 15-3 against losing teams. Now, technically, the Braves are a losing team right now, but I think we'd agree they're probably going to end up a winning team. What are your take on this game here? Dodgers and Atlanta. We do see the Braves as a small favorite, so rare opportunity. We'll look back this season. How often? What's the over/under? 10 times, 5 times all year. The Dodgers will be a dog. This will be one of them.
Yeah, I don't see that happening often here. If you look at the trends, everything's going to point towards the Dodgers. I mean, just how they do versus starting right-handed pitchers. 16-5 straight up on the season. Obviously they're on the road here. They're 5-2 straight up. One of the things that I'm looking at here specifically, though, is kind of fading Sasaki early. Maybe a Braves team total over in the first 5. Looking at the surface level numbers for Sasaki, 3.55 ERA, but his xFIP and xERA are well above 5. Sierra well above 5. His WHIP is 1.42. So I know the Braves offense is starting to pick things up here. Their barrel rate and hard hit rate is actually greater than the Dodgers right now. They're just not correlating to runs. So if we see negative regression with Sasaki, we see positive regression with the Braves offensive bats. That's pointing to runs, especially in this type of situation. One thing that the Braves struggle with offensively is their K rate, 22.5% K rate. But Sasaki hasn't shown great control. His K per 9, 7.11. His K to walk ratio is 1.8. So really a lot lower than what most of these major league pitchers are at right now. And his home run per 9 and home run per fly ball rate are a lot higher as well. So a lot of things pointing towards some runs going to the Braves side, specifically in the first 5, while Sasaki is starting. Then you avoid the Dodgers bullpen, who's been really solid. So for me, if I was to bet this game, I would say Braves first 5 team total over.
Yeah, once again, a rare opportunity to take the Dodgers at plus money. They're even money in most locations right now as a slight dog at Atlanta. That game, a national TV game at 7:15 Eastern tonight on Saturday. It's Ronald Cabang, WagerTalk.com. You can tell Ronald knows his NBA. You can tell he knows his MLB. And right now you can get both. What's the deal? Get the rest of baseball, the NBA free, or vice versa? How's it work, Ronald? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's the rest of the MLB season. You get the NBA playoffs for free. Right now, so like I said, it's been one of the best MLB seasons I've had so far to start off the MLB season. Right now, 17-7-1 MLB run, up 23 units on the season. NBA profitable regular season, in the playoffs so far up 9 units already, and then obviously WNBA preseason just started. I'm not betting the preseason, but the regular season starts in a couple weeks here. Number one all time in WNBA over at WagerTalk. I know a lot of you guys are probably gonna be like, I don't watch women's basketball or whatever it is, but I hit 59% of my WNBA bets last season. We were up 64 units. Obviously, there's a lot less games in the WNBA than the NBA, so it's a less volume, but more profit, just because a lot of people aren't touching it. The being able to get ahead of the lines is a little bit easier now than in the NBA, or in the WNBA than in the NBA. It's getting a little bit harder just because more people are touching it. But if you know the league and you know the differences between the two, and you're just an expert at it, for multiple seasons, it's going to be beneficial to get a WNBA season package with me. Hopefully you guys rock with me there.
Yeah, I mean, Ronald's record speaks for itself. And the one nice thing about the WNBA is you don't have to worry about the load management, at least not yet. They're not getting paid enough for that right now. They play hard.
Yeah.
You get a clean handicap. So once again, check out Ronald. Once again, buy the MLB, get the rest of the NBA playoffs for free, and also his WNBA right around the corner. Ronald Cabang at WagerTalk.com. All right, we talked some baseball, talked some basketball. Let's finish it off with the Derby, as it is Kentucky Derby Saturday here on May 3rd. And going to bring on Sean Alvarez, our racing expert, horse racing expert, that is. Doesn't touch motorsports. Four-legged racing expert, Sean. And let's get right to it. The thing about the Derby, I'll use a comparison to auto racing. It's like handicapping Talladega or Daytona. You just get randomness, and there's probably 20 different cars that can win on the last turn at Talladega, and it's the same thing with the Derby. You get 18, 20 horses. There's been a couple scratches, another late entry, I believe the 21st horse. How is the Derby different than any other type of race you handicap during the year?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're, talking about, North American or U.S. racing, these 3-year-old colts have never seen, a starting gate with 20 horses, or because of the scratches, 19 horses this year in their career, and they're probably never going to see it again. So kind of like you alluded to, it really is not necessarily the best horse of the day. It's, what kind of trip are they going to get? Do they get stopped? And what does that look like, at that last, eighth of a mile at Churchill Downs. So definitely hit the nail on the head. It's not always the best horse that wins. Last year, Forever Young was easily the best horse in the race, finished third, with Mystic Dan getting a dream trip and Flavian Pratt kind of hand fighting Forever Young down the stretch. So not always the best car, like you said, or the best horse that wins this race. Got to trip out with the amount of horses that we're going to see in this starting gate.
Yeah, so I mean, my take, Sean, on that would be something I look at Daytona or Talladega, is you're taking bigger odds, long shots. And the nice thing about at least the auto racing is like every one of them's 10-1 or higher. You can take more cars. I know you get a favorite still at Kentucky going off at 3-1 or 4-1. For decades, they didn't come close. I think in recent years we've had some lower money favorites win, but so how do you handicap that randomness? You're obviously looking for some double-digit payoffs probably, and is there anything else you're looking at, certain horses that you think can hang or be tough? I mean, it's very difficult, obviously, when they've had so few races.
Yeah, I mean, and the number 8 Journalism at 3-1 is a well-deserving favorite. Holds the best buyer speed figures in the race. He should get a really good trip, but like you said, this is a special circumstance with the amount of horses that we get in the Kentucky Derby. And, we can bet horses at 3-1 or 2-1 or 5-2, whatever the odds are that Journalism's going to, be when that starting gate opens. We can bet races like that on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a normal Saturday, as far as win-in goes. So let's try and take advantage of the prices that we're going to get. And I definitely do kind of lean more towards, if I'm going to bet on the win end, I want to get paid a little bit. And that kind of leans into more of a horse that I like, in the number 7 Luxor Cafe at a big old price at 15-1. This is the best Japanese horse that they have over on their circuit. And while they haven't necessarily they have not won a Kentucky Derby in their, previous tries. This is their best best 3-year-old colt that they're sending over. This is a horse that has faced big fields, 14 horse fields, 16 horse fields, 14 horse fields. So he kind of has more of that experience that he's going to see later today, where, that favorite at 3-1 that you're going to have to swallow, shorter odds. In his career, he's faced 5 horse fields, and at the most he's faced a 10 horse maiden special weight field. So, I definitely like to get paid a little bit more, like you said. Things can happen. Horses can take a bad step out of the gate. We saw the likes of Torpedo Anna lose at 2-5 yesterday while kind of getting a little shuffled into that first turn. So anything can happen with these, a 19 horse field with, like you said, 4-legged animals going around in an oval. So I'm not going to swallow that short price. I really like the likes of the number 7 Luxor Cafe at 15-1. Hopefully we were 1 year too late, because I really like Forever Young, the Japanese horse last year. Maybe we were just a little bit too late and get the number 7 Luxor Cafe to win the Kentucky Derby at 15-1.
So, Sean, I got to ask you, Lake Show Magazine has an interesting question right here in the chat. I don't know if you have the answer or not, but he says, is it true that every horse in the race is a Secretariat descendant? That sounds hard to believe, but I guess if you're talking about 6, 7, 8 generations now, that they all probably have a teeny bit. I don't know. Have you ever heard anything about that?
I think if you dig deep enough, I think a lot of lineage will go back to Secretariat, but I would have a hard time believing that every single one of these 19 horses can go back that far, but I would definitely have to look into that. I wouldn't be surprised, though. But, with that being said, my top pick, Luxor Cafe, is a descendant of American Pharoah. And, back in 2015, not only did American Pharoah win the Kentucky Derby, he went on to win the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup Classic. So there's definitely a lot to look at as far as lineage and, their bloodlines go. But I would have to dig a little bit deeper to either
production work here, guys. That's what the producer is here for, not just giving out Russell Westbrook
Shed some light on
overs.
the situation.
Yes. Shed some light on it. According to here, I found this at sports.yahoo.com. Every horse running in the Kentucky Derby 2025 is a descendant of this racing legend.
That's unreal.
Secretariat, 19.7 3 fastest, 1.25 miles in Derby history. So it says, did you know 50 years after Big Red ran for the Roses, his greatness still is here? It sounds more impressive. If you go back generations in most horses, you'll find that they're a descendant of some great, like Secretariat or Northern Dancer. So in this year's race, that is true, that the 19 horses that will be running some way, somehow can trace their ways all the way back to Secretariat in 1973, which means this should be the best Kentucky Derby ever, Sean. If the 151st means all the horses are Secretariat this year. Let's go. It's going to be a quick track this year. It's going to be a 19-way first place tie, 19 photo finish. We're going to really put technology to the work. It makes you think Wilt Chamberlain was onto something.
Yeah,
I think he was the greatest ever.
That's kind of odd, because if you look at the 19 chunk of gold back in 2023 in October, the ownership purchased him for $2,500. So wow. The fact that he has lineage going back to Secretariat, I think they got their money's worth at least.
And I'm glad Big Daddy got the Wilt Chamberlain reference about saying he was onto something about spreading his lineage. Yeah, that's a big word. Can't even spell that. Hey, give us another. The Derby's fun.
Say one thing. I have one more thing to respond to here, and then I'll let the experts get back to it. But this comment here by Mac Hudson, Secretariat laid some serious pipe. Well, according to this article that I read a little further, sired more than 660 registered foals.
I was wondering about that, Dan. I actually would have taken over.
Yeah, so when you hear that, it kind of makes sense that the lineage is still permeating.
I'm actually surprised it wasn't more, because if you got 19 horses in the Derby that have connections, you figured it would have been thousands. So that's pretty incredible. 19 out of 660 is a very high ratio, in my opinion, to make the biggest race in sports. So that's incredible. But it was a dominant horse. Man of War. I've been doing this in my NBA videos, Sean, to get some chats going. Greatest player ever. I still say Wilt Chamberlain, because I think he dominated more during his era than any player has ever dominated. My limited horse racing knowledge and research, Man of War, from what I've heard or seen, was probably the most dominant, but that was like 100 years ago. Secretariat a little bit before our time, but I don't think we've seen anything like that since, have we?
No, we've definitely not seen anything like that since. And, we're absolutely getting a little bit more as far as the thoroughbreds go. The breeding has come a long way. So not knocking anything that those horses have done in the past, but I think the competition is a little bit higher these years.
But just like with regular sports, right? The training, the nutrition, everything is as well. So that's why, like a Wilt Chamberlain 60 some years ago, or a Man of War 100 years ago to be that dominant, or even like Jim Thorpe or Jim Brown at the time. I think it's an interesting discussion. Hey, viewers in the comments, greatest horse and greatest basketball player. Everybody's been saying MJ, by the way. No one likes LeBron. I'm not a huge LeBron personal fan, but what he's done has been pretty dominant for decades. But you're splitting hairs, right? Michael, Kobe, LeBron, they're all great in different ways. Give us one other race on the way out that you're looking at. And everyone gets fixated on the Derby, but there's a lot of value with these other races. And Sean, I think you can make the argument there's more value than ever because you get so much public square money floating around the Derby that maybe finds its way into these other races before and after.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just last year alone, the Kentucky Derby broke their record handle with $320 million bet on the card. 210 of that were bet on the Kentucky Derby race alone. So a lot of opinions to be had. And like I said, that's kind of where I lean away from win bets because of all that, exacta, trifecta kind of pools and the idea that we can get paid if we're on the right opinion. So race 10 today, 2 races before the Derby, they're going 7 furlongs on the dirt in the grade 1 Derby City Distaff. 7 furlongs is really kind of a middle distance for the route type of horses that we're going to see in the Kentucky Derby, and more of those sprint type of horses that run 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs. 7 furlongs kind of is more of the end of their tank, if you will, as far as how far those horses can go. And we're going to see a lot of public opinions in this race on the 9 Ways and Means and the 7 Bava. The 7 Bava has run 3 times at Churchill Downs and is 3 for 3 on that in his career. So a lot of public opinions, but we're going to try to beat them. I really like the number 2 Copian at 8-1. He's 3 for 3 at this weird kind of 7 furlongs distance. I also like the number 8 and the number 9. So I'm going to play a little bit of an exacta, try to beat that number 7 Bava that I think is going to get bet down. So I'm going to go the 2, 8, and 9 on top with the 2, 7, 8, 9, and 12. That also includes a speed horse by Baffert with the 12 at 15-1. So I think we're including a lot of prices, trying to beat the favorite. So again, that's 2, 8, 9 over 2, 7, 8, 9, 12 for $1. That's only going to cost you $12 a punch. And like you said, a lot of money being bet on these races. A lot of, I would say, uneducated money is being bet on these races. So let's try to beat the favorite. Let's try and beat that public opinion. 2, 8, 9 over 2, 7, 8, 9, 12 for a $12 exacta.
And just to explain to people that might be new to horse racing, exacta, of course, is you have to get first and second place exactly right. That's why you'll see him having those top 3 picks as the second place horse with the other ones as the first place horse. So you're making 12 different $1 tickets, correct, Sean? And you're having 2, 8, and 9 as winners on all those with the other ones you see after the slash as your second place horse.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's the exacta.
Exactly. It's the first place horses up top with the slash. It's the second place horses there. And like I said, kind of alluded to, this is not necessarily sports betting where you're, trying to get the best of the line. This is pari-mutuel. We're betting against each other. The track takes their cut. And then we split up the winnings at the end based on how many, winning players hit that exacta.
Yeah, and by the way, we got Leg Show Magazine saying Secretariat is the John Holmes of horse racing. That's a great line. And Mac Hudson saying Secretariat, best athlete regardless of sport. But the nicest comment of the day, and I like this from David Fink, is go grab Sean's plays for today. He is a great capper, but an even better human. That is a very nice compliment. I like that. And I was going to recommend people go get your picks because right now at WagerTalk.com, his all-access pass is up right now for the Derby, and it's just $30. And yes, he gave you an opinion of the Derby, but you've got over $400 worth of wagers, and I'm assuming there's probably some exotics like exactas and whatnot in that mix, right, Sean? And that's where you risk a little to win a lot, and you also don't have to worry about what your favorite's going off at post time with that pari-mutuel stuff because the exotics pay a lot higher price with less risk. So $30 all-inclusive Derby package right now, Sean, at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Let's bet a little to win a lot. We can win bets any other week. So let's try and hit those, exacta, trifecta, kind of pick threes, and leave the Kentucky Derby weekend a winner, and look forward to the Preakness.
Love it. Go get it right now. Derby All Access from Sean Alvarez for just $30, up to $400 worth of wagers, and you can have a big Derby. Hey, go to the Derby party, drink a mint julep, and make some money while you're there with Sean Alvarez's Derby picks right now at WagerTalk.com. That'll do it. WT.buzz/SA. San Antonio, SA. By the way, Greg Popovich, I forgot to mention this in my NBA video. I'm going to do the Sunday games here right after the show. I'm recording for Sunday with our great producer, Dan Alexander. And we'll have game 7, of course, Rockets and Warriors, but also game 1, Cavaliers, Pacers. So I will have my Sunday video. But I forgot to mention in the Saturday video, which is live right now, that Popovich has stepped down as the Spurs head coach after 29 years. And to put this in perspective, I started handicapping as a full-time professional in 1996, which means every NBA game I've handicapped for the San Antonio Spurs since I became a full-time professional 4 decades ago. He'd been the head coach until now, starting next season. So I meant to ask people to comment below your thoughts on that. Was he the greatest coach of all time? He has the most wins ever in the NBA. So, hey, comment below on the replay on this if you're watching it, or go back and comment in my NBA video. And once again, click subscribe, click the bell for an instant alert so you know when these shows are live every week. Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. We have Wager Talk today, starting with Andy Lag this Monday. New host, new format. So make sure you support it. Thumbs up, like, and comment below. We read the comments and we reply back. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and stay tuned because there's more great free content coming up next right here on Wager Talk TV.